Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to JUARA's wellness webinar. This is Yoshko. I'm Yoshko. I'm one of the co-founders of JUARA, and I'm really excited to be here tonight for our webinar on testing your green skincare IQ. And what's really special tonight is we have Jen Hurtikant as our speaker, and there's a story here. Jen has actually been part of the JUARA family since inception, since we started JUARA, because Jen is, she's a formulation expert and R&D expert, a skincare chemist, and she is the brain behind pretty much all of our formulations, including our very, very first product, the Candlelight Body Cream. So it's a special occasion to have Jen here. Welcome, Jen. And thanks for
having me
from LA. I know it's still pretty early there. And so a little bit, let's, before we get into the meat of the presentation, let's talk a little bit about JUARA. Again, we're here for green skincare IQ, and we're in a time now where there are lots of claims in the natural skincare space, and it's really hard to know sometimes which claims are valid, which ones are more for marketing, and which ones we should prioritize when we go shopping or when we select products. So that's what we're here to illuminate. So a little bit about the brand. Let me just share. And by the way, if you have any questions at any point, you can always ask in the chat box. In fact, we have my business partner, Meta Mordaya, also co-founder of JUARA. Hello, hi.
Hey.
Part of the team today to screen questions and to be there for support and if anything goes wrong. Okay, so the JUARA wellness webinars, we've been doing them for a couple of months now because JUARA is all about all things wellness. We cover a whole range of topics around holistic wellness, because we believe as a company that beauty is not just about, skincare, but it's a whole mind and body situation. And, self-care is a wide-ranging situation. All right, so about JUARA, we are rooted in the ancient Indonesian jamu tradition, which is basically the herbal medicine of Indonesia, which has been around for, almost like 1,000 years and is still alive today. People literally rely on these jamu concoctions of different herbs and botanicals to address all kinds of health concerns and for their well-being. So turmeric, for example, is a big one in jamu. So that is at the heart of JUARA. We also believe in mindful rituals because that is really where, a routine, especially a skincare routine or any kind of routine around self-care is turned into a meaningful, moment with yourself, okay? So it's a holistic wellness, mind and body situation. Today we have Jen, the chemist, the formulator behind JUARA. And, we've basically, Jen and us, we've basically grown up together because we've been, working together with JUARA for so long. But she's one of the top experts in R&D innovation in skincare and beauty, and now has actually created her own company, the Meta Beauty Group, where she consults all kinds of beauty brands on how to innovate, what products to create, to develop, to bring to market, what to put in those. And, we all know there's been so much change and innovation in the beauty space. So she has become the go-to person, for companies looking to really innovate. And she resides in Los Angeles with her 3 kids and husband. And I'm really excited that she is with us tonight. as far as how these webinars work, if this is the first time that you're here, we really would love it to be interactive. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat box, not the Q&A box, but the chat box. Make sure that you, because we'd like to share all the questions, just make sure that you click where it says to, just click all participants and attendees, because it actually defaults to just it defaults to just panelists, but make sure that it's panelists and attendees, and then just type away, and we're going to address the question, here on air. And so, yeah, what you put into it is what you get out of it. So please, raise your hand, raise your voice, so we can, know what's on your mind. So without further ado, let's start. I'm going to get out of my presentation and formally welcome Jen. I'm so excited that you're here with us. We've been wanting to.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that it's finally happening. So welcome, welcome.
I know, we've talked about this for a long time.
Yes, we have.
I'm just getting my screen ready here.
What's really amazing, I think, is that, in our industry, we don't really highlight or feature the chemist or the formulator behind the beauty products as much. There's, of course, dermatologists or the brand founders, but the person who actually puts the ingredients together to create the product doesn't really have that much of a voice. So I'm really happy that is the case. And I was wondering, maybe you can share with the audience a little bit about, your own formulation philosophy, how you go about creating products, how you advise your clients, and also, as a mother of 3 girls and a consumer, how do you go about even picking out products for yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks again for having me tonight. This has been a long time coming. I know you guys have asked me to do this for a very long time, so I'm glad it finally happened today. And I'm with the Meta Beauty Group now, which is kind of my dream come true. I know I've told the girls this for many years, but I started in this industry over 20 years ago in the lab. I went around and did sales for a little bit, which I fell in love with as well. But now I have my own lab, and I help other brands bring their concepts to market. And it's everything I've wanted to do. So the Meta Beauty Group started in 2019, and we've already had a lot of really good success. And my mission really is to help brands who are not familiarly complicated, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of people and a lot of expertise to do it real efficient and effectively. So I'm happy to be here tonight. I know when I approach skincare, I do 3 things. I look at meaningful ingredients. Everything I use and every formula I make is going to have a purpose. You can ask me anything on the ingredient list, and I'll tell you exactly what it's going to do. That's always been my philosophy. If it has no reason to be there, I'm not going to put it. Secondly, I look at key ingredients. If you want to add turmeric to your face cream, I'm going to find the highest quality turmeric that has been studied with deep science and supported with a lot of clinical testing, and that's absolutely what we're going to use. And a lot of the times, I really try to make everything very minimal and simple as I can. My goal is to always look at the back of an ingredient list, and if you can see the least amount of ingredients there, that's always my goal. It's not always, I'm not always able to do that, but that's always kind of the approach I take. I just want to make sure that the key ingredients we use shine, and there's nothing else distracting it from doing what it's supposed to do.
Actually, you brought up a really
so that's my philosophy.
When you said like every ingredient should have like a purpose, because it sounds, I think if you're in like the space of formulating that, of course, right? But I think for, a regular consumer, you just assume that, of course, every ingredient has a purpose. But what that really means is, I think, the importance of, not stuffing your formulations with just fillers to bulk it up, right? To water it down, or just to make sure that the bottle is filled, which can happen a lot. But that every ingredient has a function, whether it is to keep the product fresh, or to be an active, or to be an emollient to moisturize your skin, or a surfactant to wash your skin, whatever it is, so that everything has a purpose for the benefit, for the end result of your of that experience for your skin. But Jen, I was curious, actually, like, if you're such an expert in ingredients, like, how do you shop for yourself? Like, when you go and you look at products, on, online, or even, shopping before the pandemic, but how do you, like, what are the steps you take to make sure that you make a good decision?
Yeah, so I think the best example for me to share is, sunscreens for my kids. If I'm looking for something for my kids, I look for that specific benefit. I look for zinc oxide, titanium dioxide sunscreens, because I know physical barriers are best for kids. So I always look at the specific benefit. If I'm looking for a moisturizer for myself, I would do the same. If I'm looking for something that's going to have cell regeneration, I'm going to look for something specifically like that. Ideally, I would like to see if that product was further tested for that benefit as well.
What about the idea, like, I think I heard someone say, like, okay, if you look at the ingredient list on the back of your product, look at the top 3 to 5 ingredients that appear, at the very top. And those ingredients are really the ones that make a product, and everything else is more or less just kind of like relegated to being a filler, or it's not really that important. Is that how do you just look at the first 3 to 5 ingredients?
No, I definitely wouldn't follow that rule of thumb. In a cream or a gel even, you're always going to see water as your first ingredient, and there's really nothing around that, and that's fine. That's needed to make those type of formulations. So water is always going to be the first thing you see. And, I wouldn't look at the first 3 to 5 ingredients, because things that are really active for the skin, such as peptides or even retinol, for example, you definitely don't want to use a lot of retinol. In fact, I think, less than 0.1% is super effective in 100%, if you could imagine. So if you use too much, that's really harmful for the skin. So to follow that rule of thumb, it's not really it's not anything I would tell people to do. You really just need to know what you're looking for, what's the specific benefit you're looking for, and then you kind of approach looking for a product that best suits what you need.
Yeah, I mean, the ingredients, I think, especially these days, consumers have become really, really sophisticated. Looking at ingredients or identifying ingredients on the back of the product. But I mean, just know that, it doesn't tell the whole story, right? Between actives that may appear at the very end, or just the fact that it is, let's say a water-based formulation. So the first thing, I mean, it doesn't really tell the whole story, which kind of leads us to the meat of our talk today, which is claims, right? Like you have the ingredients, right, which is mandated by the industry that you have identified exactly what's in the product. But then we see all kinds of claims that a product makes, to attract your attention, or to educate you if the product is, good. Or so that leads us to the different questions, the most common claims that we see on boxes and products that Jen is going to help us demystify.
Yeah, hopefully.
So the first one, Jen, if you want to click to the first question.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay, so the first one deals with the question.
Oh, I erased the question. I'm sorry. You should go ahead and ask it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So the first question deals with nature identical ingredients. Okay, I mean, most people may be like, okay, what are nature identical ingredients? It's kind of an ambiguous term, but the question is, and this is the first test for the audience, what are nature identical ingredients? Are nature identical ingredients natural, true or false? Okay, so I'm going to launch the poll. And hopefully everyone can see. Nature identical ingredients are natural, true or false. Okay, so we're gonna let people vote. I see answers are coming in. Tick. We're gonna give it a few more seconds. 5, 4, 3. Oh, still coming. Okay. Oh, more coming. Okay. All right. Okay, I think we're good. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going to end the poll and share the results. Okay. So, nature identical ingredients are natural. 20% say true and 80% say false. And the answer is, drum roll, Jen, what's the answer?
Nature identical is not natural. What we do, and nature identical is actually refers to synthetic ingredients that have copied nature. And there's a lot of benefits to that. I know it sounds a little weird for some people, but for us, it's actually really, really good for us. The three main benefits with nature identical are sustainability, consistency, and cost effectiveness. So when I refer to sustainability, think about rose petals. If we want to extract the essence out of rose petals, we would need thousands and thousands of petals. And the yield for that is actually very, very small. That's why the pure rose is very expensive. So it reduces the amount of, we don't need those rose petals. We can recreate this in the lab. And that allows for sustainability. So we don't deplete crops. We don't have to wait for harvests. And then that leads into consistency. If we don't have to wait for harvests, we can create the same molecule over and over again. Roses, harvested in winter can have a completely different smell from roses harvested in the summer. So, that could affect your final batch at the end of the day. It could affect your final finished good. Color is something that we struggle with natural products. We could have different colors from batch to batch of raw material. So when we put it into our final product, that can come out as different colors as well. And cost effectiveness, again, we don't have to collect thousands of rose petals to get that scent. We can just recreate it in the lab and make as much as we want. And the cost of doing that is significantly cheaper.
What I find really fascinating is that, since we're talking about green skincare, is the fact that by way of using nature identical ingredients, which are, synthetic, right? You're actually doing the environment a favor because you're not depleting the natural resource that you need so much of, right? To create whatever extract. But I mean, is the effectiveness, or is that the same when it's nature identical versus natural?
Yeah, a lot of the time it is. I mean, again, with rose, it's actually more of like a cleaner scent, if you will, and you can definitely manipulate the molecule to make it even have different notes. So we can do exactly the natural scent of rose, or we could even kind of, play around with it to have different kind of notes. But that's the best example I could think of. So it's very sustainable, and sustainability is the way the industry is going in terms of not only packaging, but raw materials as well.
Yeah, definitely. We actually have a related question here from the audience. Do they use natural ingredients to make nature identical or purely synthetic? How do they define sustainable? Okay.
Mm-hmm. It could be a blend of both. So yeah, it could be partially naturally derived, or it could be completely synthetic. It depends on what we're making.
Okay, but if you're recreating the natural one and its nature identical, like you were saying, for example, that like vanilla extract, there's natural vanilla extract, there is the synthetic vanilla extract, and then there is vanilla bean, right? Which is the actual, like the pod, right?
Right.
There is no difference between the synthetic vanilla extract and the natural one?
Well, I mean, so you've seen at the store that definitely there's a cost difference, right? So there's a difference, and when we're talking about the extract, if you use it in baking, a lot of the time you probably wouldn't notice a difference. Vanilla bean, on the other hand, is completely different.
Right, because that's the actual plant that you're using, the whole plant, not the extract. Right.
But between the extracts, you shouldn't notice a difference at all.
And here, actually from the same person, how do they define sustainable? Less use of resources of the environment? Yeah, how do they define the sustainability there?
It could be a lot of different things. It could be the actual resource. It could be the process. A lot of times, cold processes versus solvent type of processes. It could get really technical, but when we extract from seeds, for example, you've heard of cold press, right? So you can do that type of process, which is sustainable, or we can do some kind of distillate, which requires a lot of heat and all that, which isn't as sustainable.
Very interesting. Okay, that puts certain ingredients in a whole other light. Okay, right. And as far as organic, we're going to come. There's a question about organic. Is synthetic considered organic? We're going to address these questions in later. So hold on. We're gonna get to that question. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. What does it mean when a skincare product claims to be chemical-free? We see that a lot, where it's like, oh, we're not using any chemicals and so forth. But what does that actually mean? So let's see what the audience thinks. Okay. The question is, what is skincare free of chemicals, right? And you have multiple choice here. Does it mean natural skincare products, right? Or does it mean products that contain no synthetic ingredients? Or does it mean or the third option is there is no such thing as products free of chemicals? Okay, so we'll let people vote, and then I'm going to end the poll in a little bit once the answers come in. Again, does it mean natural? Does it mean no synthetics? Or does that actually not even exist? Okay. Oh, answers are still coming in. Okay. I was going to do the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and end. Okay, let's share the results. Natural skincare products, we had a few products that contain no synthetics, or, well, 10 people, 63% said there is no such thing as products free of chemicals. Okay, so Jen, enlighten us. What's up with chemical free?
Okay, so I get this question a lot, and I'm always, it's a really interesting request because it's really hard to answer. So, I threw up 3 molecules here, or structures rather, that I think would be they're just kind of fun, and maybe you guys know what these are, but if anyone can kind of take a guess on what the one on the left is, it goes by the name dihydrogen oxide. Chemically, but it's very commonly used. Do we have anyone chatting to see what the answer is for this one?
Oh yeah, you can put the answer if you do know. I was very bad at chemistry in school, so I'm like, well, yes, you can put it in the box. Oh, we have an answer here. Water, yes.
Yeah, so this is just the technical term for water. It looks really scary, but it actually isn't. So water is made, you know, our skin is made up of a lot of water, 75 to 80% water. We need it. In fact, when we don't have it, we could get very, very sick. So water is a chemical, and that's obviously used in a lot of skincare. The middle structure is, this one was, I just kind of threw it in there for fun. This is more of something that you eat, but it looks, you know, it looks kind of technical, and it looks big, and the name under it. What was that?
I don't even know how to pronounce it properly in English.
Right, that would be the technical name. But it's more, you know, you also know is a sodium chloride, but it's your commonly known as table salt. So again, another chemical, and we eat it. We eat it. You probably had a lot of it today. So, and the third chemical or the structure here is something commonly used in skincare. It goes by the name of glycosaminoglycan, but it's more commonly known as hyaluronic acid or sodium hyaluronate.
Love hyaluronate.
So this is just a fun exercise to show that these are all chemicals, and the bottom line is we shouldn't be afraid of them. But when my clients ask for this, I always ask them is this really what you want? Or is the question, can we make natural products? Can we make natural derived products? And the answer to that is yes, for sure.
So, I mean, chemical-free doesn't actually mean anything, because even natural ingredients or naturally occurring ingredients like water and whatever, I mean, it's a chemical, right?
Yes, yeah. So I think the question when it's asked is maybe not the right question. It's just understanding what you really want. And a lot of the times it ends up being, I want naturally derived ingredients.
Okay. We actually have a really cool question here that I think we can address here on the spot. In your experience, do synthetic ingredients prove to demonstrate more efficacy in clinical testing than natural ingredients? What do you think, Jen?
Not more. I think I love synthetic and I love natural. So you can go either way. Now that natural is a trend, a lot of these suppliers that have actives, they do have a lot of naturally derived actives, and they do so much research on them that the claims that you can make on natural products are really good. Peptides, for example, peptides are synthetic, and those are really good too. So it just depends. What claim are you wanting to make? What benefit do you want? And do you want it synthetic or natural? I think that there's so many things out now that there's so much to choose from, either synthetic or natural.
Right. So you can't really say, generally speaking, if, you know, natural or naturally derived ingredient is more efficacious than synthetic or vice versa. It's like they almost should coexist, you know, so that you can have the best of both worlds, right?
For sure, yeah. In the last 10 years, I would say that natural products have come a long way, a long way. I mean, back in 2004, JUARA asked me to do a bunch of natural things, and back then it was really challenging. I had very little to work with, but now it's a lot easier. The science has just gotten a lot better.
Right. And the testing has also gotten a lot better, where you can, you know, show what the ingredient actually does. Okay, very cool. Yeah. Let's move on to the next question. So we're moving on from... Yeah,
we're going on to more of the claims. Hopefully I could reveal some good information.
Okay. Oh, now we're getting into a good one. This one was for me. I'm not going to give it away, but okay. All right. Does vegan mean natural? Let's see. Let's ask the audience here what they think. Okay. So vegan skincare is natural skincare. Is that a true statement or a false statement? Vegan skincare is natural skincare. True or false? Please vote. Okay. All right. Let's see. Yeah, we still have people coming in. Okay. All right, I'm going to do the countdown soon. Oh, wait, no, more coming. Okay. All right, so 5, 5,
This is
3,
fun.
2, yeah, I'm always curious. 5, 3, no, 5, 3, 5, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, all right, let's share the results. Okay. Yeah, most people say false. Vegan skincare is natural skincare, and most people say it's false. Some people say it is true. Jen, what do you say?
So vegan is technically using or containing no animal products. So vegan is it's mostly synthetic, and a good example of this is nail polish. Nail polish, I think, was one of the first and still the strongest type of personal care that makes this claim because nail polish is 100% synthetic. So it can be natural, but we have to make sure and double check processes and stuff like that. Actually, one thing that I thought was really interesting that I learned relatively recently is something like xanthan gum. You know, we've been using that for years in skincare, and but if you want vegan, you have to specifically use a vegan derived xanthan gum, because somewhere along the process, when they manufacture xanthan gum, they actually use eggs. So that was something that I learned fairly recently, which I thought was really interesting because I've used xanthan gum for years.
Right.
So when we do start working with, if that's a claim that one of my clients wants to make, even though I'm pretty sure I know what to use, I always double check with our vendors.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the process also matters. It's not just the source, the original source of
yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So for true vegan claim, you have to look at the whole process.
Okay. Well, and actually you can kind of extrapolate from this, when the claims are, vegetarian, for example, vegetarian does include eggs and, honey.
Exactly.
Yeah. But if something is 100% vegetarian, it also doesn't mean that it's necessarily natural. It just means that it could be 100% synthetic as well.
Yeah. And I wanted to point out also that, we see a lot of these claims spill into personal care, and they're largely from food. Once you start seeing food claims hit the market, like vegan or gluten-free or any of those kind of claims, we certainly start seeing it in personal care. Mm-hmm. So kind of derived from. I don't know if you remember the acai trend, where acai bowls were the hottest thing, and you have to eat it. It's the most powerful antioxidant. It's just really all around good for you. We start seeing that in skincare. Everyone wanted to put acai in their skincare. So a lot of our trends that we see, they do come from food.
Yes, and I love acai. But yes, you're right. Food translates into, and sometimes it's very meaningful, but sometimes it can also be a little bit, not necessarily meaningful. It kind of depends. And, you really have to, educate yourself, right? And to kind of know the nuances here. And that's what Jen is here for. Okay, great. So we've covered vegan. Yeah, vegan doesn't necessarily mean natural. It just means not animal products, but can be all synthetic. Great. Next, what do we have next, Jen?
Okay.
Oh yeah, this one's a big one. What is cruelty-free skincare? It used to be, we used to talk, not say cruelty-free, but there were other terms in the industry. But now these days, everyone talks about cruelty-free skincare. But what does that actually mean? Let's see if the audience knows. Okay. All right, so let's start with this one. Cruelty-free skincare means that the product and the ingredients have not been tested on animals. right? So is that true or false? Cruelty-free skincare. We used to say no animal testing, but what does that actually mean, right? Product and ingredients have not been tested on animals. Delicious, have never been tested on animals. Okay, still have a few coming in. All right, so one more. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, end. Okay, let's share results. Okay, most people say true. A few say false. Interesting. Yes, this one has a lot of nuances, and I was even surprised when I learned what it means. Jen, tell us about the nuances.
So cruelty-free means that no animal testing was done, but it's very complicated and it gets very complex because there's ingredients that we use today that have been used for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and they were around for a very long time. And back then, animal testing was the only thing that was done at that time. So since then, they've adopted a lot of different criteria in order to claim cruelty-free for products that are made today, but that may have been, tested in the past. So this is an example of a big brand, a big company, Unilever, that they do have a PETA certification where they claim cruelty-free among their brands like Dove and Suave. But in order to do that, they committed to a fixed cutoff date. So their mission, or they promised that they will not have used any ingredients that have been tested on animals after December 31st, 2010. So that's kind of how they're dealing with the cruelty-free claim right now. And as time goes on, we probably are going to have ingredients that may never have been animal tested because it hasn't been done, in at least the last 10 years. And new ingredients that come to market are not being animal tested. There's other tests that we do for safety because that's originally why animals were used, where, we can use human cells, we can grow human cells, we can use human tissue from, different sources and test on that to test for safety. But cruelty-free, so different companies will have a fixed cutoff date, like you're seeing here from Unilever.
That's really interesting. I mean, so the takeaway really is that, a lot of these ingredients have been tested on animals in the past. And they're just staples in the, in formulating products. I mean, they're not, they're staple ingredients that, or like almost like foundational to products, but, back then they have been tested. But I mean, do you think that more and more foundational ingredients are being replaced with newer ingredients that, that didn't have to be tested on animals?
Some of them are. I mean, emulsifiers, stuff that we need to make emulsions, they always come out with new ones, and so those are not being animal tested. But stuff like cetyl alcohol, stearyl alcohol, those are things that we really do need to continue to use, and there's not many alternatives for those, and those have been used for years. So it's gonna be very limited as time goes on, but I'm sure there's gonna be some ingredients, old ingredients, that we still continue to use. Yeah.
So, I mean, so the answer is, it kind of depends, but yeah, you can't really say, it's been never tested, on animals just because you have these like foundational, ingredients
right.
that, people do need. We have some questions from the audience here. What about, okay. So the question here from Pauline is, what about testing on animals? Could that impact the claim even if the formulation is vegan? So in other words, if something is an ingredient was tested on animals, does it still qualify then as a vegan formulation or a vegan ingredient?
No, I would say the raw material itself has to be animal derived. They're two separate things.
Okay, so vegan just means it's animal derived, and even if it's a vegan ingredient, if it's a vegan ingredient but it was tested on animals, that doesn't affect the claim that you say it's vegan, right? So okay.
No, then you wouldn't be able to claim cruelty free.
Right. So those are two different claims. That's a very good question.
Those are two totally different claims.
Yeah. Okay. So different claims, different standards. One more question. Does socially responsible fall under cruelty free?
Oh, that's a good question. I bet if it doesn't now, I bet it's something that will be addressed. And there's other things that address that. So, fair trade type things like that. There's different programs out there that address that. I don't think it'll fall under cruelty free though.
Right. Socially responsible is much, much wider,
For example, argan oil is a good example of, I know, suppliers that have partnered with, villages where that is from, and they give back to those people that pick the plant and process it and all that. So that's a different, it's definitely happening right now. It's a totally different thing.
Right. I mean, chances are socially responsible usually means that a product is also cruelty free, just because philosophically it's very similar. But just because something is cruelty free doesn't mean that it is socially responsible. Okay,
correct.
Great. One more question here. Do animals get hurt with vegan versus non-vegan? Well, if it is vegan, correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, if it's vegan, you just don't have any animals involved, right? At all.
Right.
So, unless somewhere in the process, animals do get affected by creating an ingredient. But I wonder, beeswax. Is beeswax vegan? No, right? It's vegetarian. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not vegan.
Not vegan, no. And also another thing to remember is bees are not harmed. And actually it's a natural process that needs to happen. So that's how a lot of brands justify using beeswax and or honey-derived actives. Same thing with silk. Yes, it comes from silkworms, but we're not harming those silkworms. It's just a byproduct of what they do. So we actually upcycle it, if you will. So a lot of the animal-derived products that we do use are used like that. Lanolin, for example, I know people don't want to use it now. It's actually the best. But we have, sheep need to be sheared, and the lanolin comes from all that wool, so we're not harming sheep. So, just education and where these ingredients come from and how they are extracted, I think is really important as well. Although I don't think anyone's going to go back to animals, so it's okay.
Right. No, but that's good to know. Just because something is not vegan doesn't mean that it's, in fact, it could be a byproduct that actually just, is created no matter what, and then you can actually use it. That's not necessarily a bad thing or, hurting the animal. Okay, let's move to the next question. We've covered animal testing and cruelty-free.
Sorry.
This is a more modern claim. Gluten-free skincare. Okay. Is gluten-free skincare better or healthier, right? Let's ask the audience. Okay. Is gluten-free skincare healthier? We see that a lot in the skincare space now. Okay, answers are coming in. Okay. Some yes. Lots of no's. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. End. Okay. Most people answered no. Okay. Most people say no, it is not healthier. And Jen. what's the story behind gluten-free skincare?
So this is another great example of food spilling into personal care. So gluten-free, we started seeing a lot of that when people started to be a lot more aware of their gluten intake. And, it's gone pretty far. There's certifications that you can get claiming gluten-free that you can, put on your marketing and on your packaging. These are examples of some of them. In skincare, we actually don't use a lot of wheat-derived ingredients. There's just not a whole lot of skincare benefit from wheat specifically. There's a lot of hair care benefit to wheat. It's excellent for hair, but for skin, we don't use a lot of it. And the alternatives that we do use for proteins, because that's essentially why people use wheat, are for the proteins and the amino acids in it. We find a lot more skincare benefits from the amino acids and proteins found in soy and rice. Peas are very popular right now, and again, that's coming from food as well. Quinoa, silk, oat. So we have a lot of options when it comes to gluten-free in skincare.
Okay. But I mean, it really is sort of a thing that wasn't really a big issue to begin with, because we weren't using gluten in skincare to begin with. Right?
Right.
Okay. All right. I think
Right.
we can move on to the next question. Just 1 second. All right. What does it mean when a skincare product claims to be non-toxic? Okay. Let's see if we can get a temperature read from the audience. Okay. So what is skincare that claims to be non-toxic? This is not a yes or no question. Okay. So we have 3 options here. It means that it's an all-natural skincare product. It means products that don't contain ingredients that are irritating. Or it means products that don't contain substances that are, and this was cut off, I apologize, that are poisonous, okay? So the last one is products that don't contain substances that are poisonous, okay? So let's see, 3 options. Yeah, this is a little bit more nuanced. We're getting the answers from the responses, okay? Right, I think we can 5, 4, up. More answers coming. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, all right. Let's end this poll. Share the results. Yeah, most people say products that don't contain substances that are poisonous, but there are some that don't contain ingredients that are irritating. Nobody picked the all-natural skincare product. Wow. Okay. All right. So I know, Jen, this is a complicated one, so I'm gonna hand it over to you to explain that, the idea of non-toxic.
Yeah, so when we talk about toxicity, technically we determine toxicity by the lethal dose that's ingested. So something is ingested and it kills something, then that's toxic. We don't work with a lot of these materials, especially in just skincare and hair care. So this is not really, something we worry about too much, although we have to be aware of what we use because, on certain parts of the body, for example, your lips, your eyes, feminine products, places where chemicals can enter the body, we have to be aware of what those are that we should not be using. And we always start with our supply chain. We start with the raw materials. We make sure that we are using non-toxic materials. All of our vendors have that data. They have toxicology data to share with us. So that's really where we start. And then brands could take it even further. So the main purpose behind non-toxic is to be safe for humans and the environment. So there's an organization called Made Safe, which they will do that for you. They will screen your ingredients, and if it matches their criteria for safety, then you can have this claim to put on all your products. And then furthermore, if you do even more lab testing, you can have this other certification saying non-toxic certified. So toxicity is really, I mean, it's really extreme. But we make sure that we do our part, and we use high quality ingredients from very well-known vendors from our industry. It's always really interesting that people relate toxicity with irritation, because they're two separate, like kind of separate things. So I think that's what's going to lead us into our next question.
Actually, we do have
unless there's other questions. Okay.
Can you give an example of what a toxic ingredient would be in, I guess, in skincare? That question came from Natsuyo.
In skincare, oh, I can't think of anything offhand, but something that has been really prevalent in our industry is, formaldehyde, where it was used in chemical processing for your hair. And the reason why is because in those type of chemical treatments, it contains formalin, which when a stylist goes through your hair and starts applying heat, like a flat iron, it changes that into gas, which is then formaldehyde. And the toxicity levels for the stylist are increased at that point because they're actually inhaling it. So stuff like that, it's more in the reactive products like chemical treatments, stuff like that we really have to be careful when, in terms of toxicity.
Primarily hair care. Okay. The takeaway is that, if I understand correctly, is that, because toxicity is really about whether something is poisonous or even lethal, that ingredients are already so vigorously pre-screened that chances of, there's really minimal chance of toxicity in regular skincare products.
Yeah, for skincare, I mean, it's, most recently talc is not used anymore because so we're starting to also realize that small particles should not be used. So talc is a perfect example of something that looked super safe and ended up being pretty toxic. And those are concerns, especially for makeup. There's a lot of regulations on particle sizes of powders and stuff that we're allowed to use for color cosmetics.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, that's good to know. Okay, we're, my God, I could ask you questions all day long, but we do have to move along. All right, you did touch on the whole, toxic versus allergies or irritation, which I guess sometimes are used interchangeably. Is it possible to avoid allergies or irritation in skincare? Was the question, is the question. Okay, let's see what people say. Can you see? Is it possible to avoid irritation or allergies in skincare? Yes, no, or sort of. I know that's ambiguous, but let's see. Yes, you can. No, sort of. This is a mixed bag. Okay. Oh, still answers are coming in. Oh, still coming in. I'm going to slowly count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Share results. Okay, yeah, this is very much a mixed bag. Yes, you can avoid it. No, you can't. Sort of, all over the place. Pretty equally split in the audience. But yes, this is a hard one, Jen. Like, is it possible to avoid it? Yes or no? Or sort of.
That's a little tough, and it's a little more complicated than that, but we try our best. We really do. We look at ingredients very closely, and we look at specs very closely. We look at pH. We look at all kinds of different parameters to make sure that we are being as safe and as non-irritating as we can. But, it really comes down to everybody has such different biology. It has such different chemistry that a product for one person can be totally fine, and then another person uses it and it could totally irritate them. So for us, the best way we can study that, is doing testing. So for my clients, I require that they do, a number of tests before you go on to market, and this is one of them. It's called the repeat insult patch test, and we refer to it as the RIPT. This test is on your finished good. So we send it to a third-party testing lab. They put it on 50 subjects. So the dermatologist test, which is the minimal test that I recommend anybody to do before you put something on the market, is you apply your product onto 50 human subjects. These are 50 people. They commonly place the product on their back, and then they patch it, and they observe it for 48 hours. They observe it during the 48 hours and after, and you could even do it for a few weeks after that, just to ensure the irritation potential. But this test at least allows us to see if any irritation was caused by that product. And it's a very aggressive test because it's occlusive, right? So we put the product on our skin, and then you patch it and you close it, which even is very aggressive. That's not normally how you would use a product, but it's a good way to really test your subject, to test your product. So there's two tests that you can choose to do, and the dermatologist one is the absolute minimum that I always suggest. Or if you want to make a hypoallergenic claim, you have to use 250 human subjects, and the results are evaluated by a dermatologist. And the higher number of subjects allows you to have more data, right? And hypoallergenic is a FDA claim, so you have to have as much data as possible. So this test is the way that we can determine if a product is safe or not. Will it cause irritation or not?
But at the end of the day, even if something is labeled hypoallergenic, it does not exclude the possibility that in certain individuals, it might create irritation or an allergy to something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People's skin is so different. There's some people that are just a lot more sensitive than others. So it's a really tough one. That's why when you do choose ingredients, you have to choose what works best for you.
We actually did have one interesting question here. Two ingredients that are sort of like very hot, like sort of have become no ingredients in our industry. It's parabens and sulfates. Are they actually toxic ingredients?
Parabens?
Parabens and sulfates.
Oh, parabens and sulfates. Oh, that's my favorite question. Okay, so parabens, in Europe, there was a claim made by a woman who said that she developed breast cancer from parabens. Meanwhile, parabens is in food. It's still used in food today. It's a preservative. It's used in food today. However, we do not use it in skincare. So we don't really know what happened to the lady in Europe. But that was the initial claim. Since then, she's retracted all of that. And we've proven that parabens are actually safe. But unfortunately, now that it's out and consumers relate parabens to a negative effect, we don't use it. So parabens are great. To me, preservation of a product is the most important part of any product, because once it starts growing bugs and someone puts it on their skin, you have bigger issues. So parabens for a long time were the best preservatives. Unfortunately, now it's kind of a mixed bag. We kind of have to use different preservatives for different things, because just not one preservative works for everything like parabens did. And sulfates, I had yet to see someone go blind from sulfates. I think the big story with sulfates is it does strip hair color. So, that would be the main reason to maybe not use it. But if you don't color your hair, it's fine.
Sulfates, sodium lauryl sulfate can irritate the skin. But this is just to clarify, irritation is not the same as toxic. So sulfate, and just like paraben, is not toxic. Sulfate, under certain circumstances, right, can be irritating because it strips the protective layer of your, the protective barrier of your skin, and so it can create irritation. But it's not toxic per se. Okay. We're going to run over time here. Sorry about that. So yeah, let's move on to the last part. We're not going to have a poll here, but we're going to address something that's very, very commonly, talked about. What does organic mean, and is there a difference between natural and organic? Yeah. Jen, take us straight to like the nuances there.
So when people ask about natural, organic, versus organic versus certified organic, it's really, it has to be specified. So what I found in my experience is people use the word natural and organic interchangeably. And organic really changes when you start to say certified organic. Certified organic pertains to being, here in the United States, it pertains to USDA, which is also the organization that is for organic food. So to have a USDA certified organic product is very hard. We're very limited with the raw materials we can use because we have to use certified organic USDA raw materials, and those are really hard to come by. So forget about innovation and different textures, stuff like that. We're very limited in what we can make. Furthermore, you have to manufacture that product at a certified organic manufacturer, which is there's not many of those. So, and then you have to apply for the certified organic seal, which is also, a lot of fees, which could be annual fees as well. So there's a lot when it comes to certified organic. What a lot of people end up doing is using some certified organic ingredients in their formulas and calling those out. You can certainly do that, and that's a great alternative. And I have EcoCertain Cosmos here too, because those are the equivalent of USDA organic in Europe. And I have a lot of clients who kind of want to follow that more so, because Europe has always been kind of the standard that the whole world follows.
Right.
So, so that's in a nutshell. I mean, I could go into a lot further, details in natural and naturally derived organic and certified organic, but in general, that's the difference between these three things. In fact, more like two things, because natural and organic are the same.
Okay, got it. So if you really, really want something organic, you have to go for the certified organic product, where not just every ingredient, but also the final product needs the certification. But the trade-off there is that you probably don't get the latest innovation or like the latest ingredients or, something really new, just because that is, it's really, really hard to have even ingredients available that are certified organic and the latest. So, interesting. Yeah. Thanks, Jen. This was really, really.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was fun.
And I apologize to the audience. We've had more questions, than we were able to address, but we can go back and, address them, reach out to you and address them by email, just because we're already past our time. And let's just go quickly back into, the rest of, what's coming up for our next webinar. So thank you so much, Jen.
Yeah.
We actually have a free offer to everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Everyone who actually tuned in, you get a sample of our award-winning JUARA Coconut Ilipe Hand and Nail Balm, which Jen formulated and which received the Birdie Award for 2020 for Best Hand Cream. So, Meta, if you can put the link into the chat so people can actually cut and paste it or copy and paste it, because this link here on our website is where you can claim your free sample of the hand cream. Okay. Up next, we have a very, very cool guest, Adam Yorgi, who is a very world famous pianist, and he's going to talk about harnessing creativity and staying inspired through challenging times, because you can imagine he hasn't been able to perform. He performs all over the world in New York. I've seen him at Carnegie Hall, but he hasn't been able to give concerts because of the pandemic. So how do you stay motivated through these times and, creative, and bringing your art, to the world when, the format needs to change? How do you do that? So that is what's coming up July 2nd, Thursday, and, very excited about that. And also what I haven't mentioned before is if you are a presenter or you have, you're in the wellness space and you have something to say and you're looking for a platform to present, we would love to hear from you. You can find a form to fill out on our website when you go to our blogs and for the wellness webinars. There is a link to click, a Google form where you can fill out, what your craft is and, what you would like to, or what your message is. And then we can make that happen. And yes, the free offer I mentioned already. This is a fairly new award that we got from this year. So we're ecstatic, especially since, we all wash our hands a lot these days. So make sure that you claim your free sample if you attended our webinar. And if you're interested to hear more about Jen, she can be followed on Instagram at J Who Else 49.
Oh, it's actually just Who Else. There's no J.
Oops, sorry about that. Who Else? My bad. Or you can also find more information about her at metabeautygroup.com. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I apologize for going over time. We had so many questions, and I love the fact that we heard, so much from the audience, to dive into these green skincare claims. So, and thank you so much, Jen, for your time and for being part of JUARA for all these years. We love you. And
it was fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Till next time. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.